6 figures. It is the number almost everyone quietly chases, the one you decided years ago would mean you had finally made it. And it is the number that disappoints more people than any other on the exact day they finally reach it. Because by the time your paycheck says $100,000, taxes and lifestyle have already spent most of it in advance. Today, you are standing on the 6-figure rung, the one that looks from below like a glass ceiling over the whole normal world. I want to show you that the ceiling is painted on. It is in your head, and I want to show you the one move that gets you through it. Here is the plan. First, I will place you on the ladder at exactly this rung, then show you the two numbers that matter here. The sticker salary you brag about and the take-home that actually lands in your account, because the gap between them is bigger than you think. Then 6 unlocks, each one true at 6 figures and nowhere lower down. 1. 6 figures feels like less than you dreamed, and that is predictable. 2. The number is a psychological ceiling, not a real one. 3. Trading time for money is nearly maxed out. 4. Earned income is taxed the hardest, owned income is not. 5. The high salary trap, where the big paycheck is the very thing that stops you. And 6. To pass this rung, you change the source of your income, not its size. Then the recipe to climb into the top 10%. Picture income as a tall ladder. The bottom rung is the floor. Entry wages, the start of every working life. Above it, the median, where half the country stands. Above that, comfortable. And then this one. 6 figures, roughly $100,000 to $150,000 a year, according to one popular national earnings survey, rounded. Reaching it puts you in roughly the top 15 to 20% of earners. From down on the floor, this rung looks like the top of the whole ladder, the place where money worries are supposed to end. You are here now, and the strange thing about standing on it is how much smaller it feels than it looked from below. Now the two numbers, and at this rung, they come further apart than ever. The sticker salary, the big round figure on the offer letter, the one you say out loud, is around $120,000. That is the gross. It is the number that made you feel like you had arrived. But the money that actually reaches your account, the take-home, is closer to $85,000. Look at that gap. Around $35,000 gone before you ever touch it, to taxes and deductions. The higher the rung, the wider that bracket opens, because earned income gets taxed harder the more of it you make. So the impressive 6-figure number was never fully yours. A big slice of it was claimed the moment you earned it. Unlock one. 6 figures feels like less than you dreamed, and that disappointment is completely normal. When you pictured this number years ago, you pictured it landing on top of your current life. You imagined keeping everything you have now and adding $100,000 of freedom on top. But that is not how it arrives. It arrives after 2 invisible claims have already been staked on it. The first claim is taxes, which take a bigger bite here than at any rung below, quietly removing tens of thousands before the money is ever yours. The second claim is subtler and more dangerous, the lifestyle you already grew on the way up. Every rung you climbed, your spending climbed with it. A slightly nicer place, a newer car, the small daily comforts you stopped noticing. So by the time the 6-figure paycheck arrives, most of it is already promised, to the tax system and to the version of you that upgraded your life one comfortable step at a time. The round number sounded like margin, like breathing room. In reality, it was spent in advance before you ever saw it. And here is why I want you to hear this clearly. The letdown you feel is not a sign that you are bad with money or that you did something wrong. It is the predictable result of a number that was claimed before it landed. Almost everyone who reaches this rung feels the exact same quiet deflation. The disappointment is real, but it is also the doorway, because once you stop expecting the number itself to save you, you can finally ask the better question. Not, how do I earn more, but how do I keep and own more of what I already earn? Unlock 2. Six figures is a psychological ceiling, not a real one. And this is where an enormous number of people quietly stop climbing. There is something about that figure, $100,000, that feels like the natural top of ordinary life. It is the number in every good salary conversation. It is the round, clean milestone everyone points at. And so, without ever deciding to, people arrive here and unconsciously exhale, as if they have reached the summit and the climbing is finished. But look closely at the ladder and you will see there is no wall here at all. The rungs keep going. Above this one is the top 10%, and above that the top 1%, and they are occupied by real people who did not turn out to be superhuman. The ceiling you feel pressing down on this rung is not made of anything solid. It is made of a story. The story that 100,000 is the top of normal, and that wanting more is greedy or unrealistic, or not for people like you. That story is doing something specific to you. It is telling your ambition to sit down at the exact moment you finally have the income and the skills to climb further. The people on the rungs above you did one simple thing you can do too. They refused to believe the number was a wall. They treated it as a rung like any other, one you stand on briefly on the way up, not a shelf you settle onto for good. The ceiling is painted on. You can walk right through it the moment you stop treating the paint like glass. Unlock 3. At this rung, trading your time for money is nearly maxed out, and you need to feel that wall clearly. Think back to the very first rung, the floor, where the only way to earn more was to work more hours. That trick has quietly run out of room. There are only so many hours in a week, and by the time you reach six figures, you are already selling most of the good ones. You cannot simply work twice as hard and reach 200,000 because you do not have twice the hours. Nobody does. The gauge is nearly pinned. This is the moment the entire strategy that got you here stops working. Every rung below this one, the answer to "how do I earn more" was some version of "put in more time, more hours, more shifts, more availability, more grind." And it worked, rung after rung, which is exactly why you trust it. But time is a fixed tank, and yours is running low. You have been paid for your hours your whole career, and you are almost out of hours to sell. So the question has to change. It can no longer be, "how do I put in more time?" because there is barely any more time to put in. It has to become, "how do I earn in a way that is not tied to my hours at all?" That is not a small tweak to the same method. It is a completely different method, one where your income stops being a function of how many hours you personally show up and starts coming from something that keeps paying whether you are working that hour or not. The hours are almost gone. The method has to change. Unlock 4, and this one quietly runs the whole game. Earned income is taxed the hardest, and owned income is not. Let me lay out the difference plainly, because almost nobody has heard it stated simply. There are, roughly, two ways money can come to you. The first is earned income, the paycheck you get for showing up and doing work, your salary, your wages, your hourly pay. The second is owned income, money that comes from owning things, a slice of a business, shares of equity, a stake that pays you a return. Here is the part the system never advertises. Those two kinds of income are not taxed the same way. The paycheck, the earned kind, the kind you break your back for, is taxed the most heavily of all. The owned kind, the money that flows to you because you own something valuable, is generally taxed more gently. Sit with how strange that is. The person who earns 100,000 by working for it hands over a bigger share than the person who earns the same 100,000 by owning something that earns it for them. Same amount of money arriving, very different bite taken out. This is not a loophole or a secret club. It is simply how the rules are written, out in the open. The system quietly rewards owners more than it rewards high earners. And that is the deepest reason this rung feels like a ceiling. You are trying to win the game entirely on the most heavily taxed kind of income there is. Every raise you fight for arrives pre-shrunk. The way through is not just to earn more of the taxed kind, it is to start earning some of the gentler, owned kind right alongside your wage. Unlock 5. The high salary trap, where the big paycheck becomes the very thing that stops you from ever building wealth. This one is cruel because it does not feel like a trap at all. It feels like success. Here is how it closes on you. A large salary funds a large life. The six-figure paycheck can comfortably carry a bigger home, a nicer car, better trips, the full upgraded lifestyle, and all of it feels earned because it is. But that comfortable life does two quiet things. First, it eats the money. A big income poured into a big lifestyle can leave you just as stretched at 100,000 as you were at 50. The familiar paradox of earning a small fortune and still feeling the pinch every single month. And second, more dangerously, it removes all urgency. When your paycheck already delivers a life that looks and feels like success, why would you take on the risk and discomfort of building anything else? Why chase ownership? Why start the harder project? Why change a thing? The paycheck is so good, it becomes a pillow. These are the golden handcuffs, tightened one notch past the rung below. And the trap is that they are made of genuinely nice things. Nobody feels trapped by a comfortable, well-paid life. That is precisely what makes it so effective. The high salary sedates the exact hunger that would have pushed you to own something. So you stay, comfortable and highly paid, on a rung you were only meant to pass through, mistaking a big wage for real wealth, when the two are not the same thing at all. The escape is to see the comfort for what it truly is. Not a destination you have arrived at, but a trap dressed up as one. Unlock 6, and it ties the whole rung together. To get past 6 figures, you change the source of your income, not its size. Everything below this point trained you to think about one dial. Bigger. A bigger title, a bigger raise, a bigger salary, the same kind of income, just more of it. And that dial got you all the way here. But you have now seen why it stalls at this rung. Your hours are nearly maxed. Your paycheck is the most heavily taxed money there is. And a bigger wage just funds a bigger lifestyle that leaves you standing in the same spot. Turning the bigger dial harder cannot move you now. So you reach for a different dial entirely, the source. Instead of only asking, how do I get a bigger paycheck? You start adding a second kind of income beside the wage, ownership. That might mean equity, owning a real piece of something that grows in value whether or not you clocked in. It might mean building something you own outright, a small business or asset that earns on its own. Or it might mean a one-to-many skill, something you make once that can be sold to 100 people or 1,000, instead of your time being sold once to one employer. The common thread across all three is that the income is no longer chained to your hours, and it is taxed more gently besides. You do not have to quit the salary to do this. In fact, you should not. The salary becomes the fuel, but the leap that gets you off this rung was never a bigger number on the same paycheck. It is a second, different stream running quietly beside it. Change the source, and the ceiling you have been pushing against simply stops being there. So how do you actually climb off 6 figures and into the top 10%? The recipe is not work more hours. You are out of those. It is 5 deliberate moves. First, build leverage. Get some of your income coming from equity, ownership, or a one-to-many skill, something that pays you beyond the hours you personally work. That is the whole game above this rung. Second, specialize. Go narrow and become genuinely rare, the hard-to-replace person in a specific niche, because rare and specific commands the kind of pay that raw hours never will. Third, negotiate total compensation, not just base salary. At this level, the real gains hide in equity, bonus, and ownership stakes, not in the base number everyone fixates on. So ask for the whole package. Fourth, convert income into assets aggressively and automatically. Every dollar of that fat paycheck you turn into something you own is a dollar that starts earning the gentler, owned kind of income. So set it to happen on its own, every payday, before your lifestyle can absorb it. And fifth, treat the six-figure paycheck as fuel, not a finish line. It is not the destination you were chasing all those years. It is the raw material you use to buy ownership. Do these 5 things and you stop being a high earner standing on a rung and start becoming an owner climbing past it. So tell me in the comments, did hitting 6 figures feel the way you dreamed it would? Or did it quietly disappoint you the way we talked about? Wherever you are on the ladder, the next move up is never just a bigger paycheck. It is a different kind of income standing beside it. This is education, not financial or career advice, just the ladder, laid out honestly. Next time we climb to the top 10% and something strange happens, the specialist wall, where raw effort finally stops working and almost everyone hits a barrier they do not understand. I will see you on the next rung.